to do it, and then, but just
We could probably start a minute early.
We could, but technically it's
Where's
just 30
everybody?
seconds early at this point.
I can't see. Never bring my glasses.
Hopefully you send out white wine for these.
Just look for one to say, "Hey." I'd like to call to order the Village of Middleville Village Council meeting. Rhonda, may I please have roll call, please?
Kevin Smith,
Here.
Robert Bishop,
Here.
Tracy Gillespie, Richard Hamilton,
Here.
John Osterbon, Mackenzie Peters,
Here.
Ann Williams.
All right. In memory of those who are not here today, I'd like to, anyone have a motion to excuse Mr. Osterbon and Ms. Williams?
And
Gillespie. Tracy.
Oh, Tracy's not here too. So all three, please.
I'll make a motion to that
And we
effect.
have a motion with support. All those in,
Wait, did we have a support?
Yep.
Oh,
Mr. Bishop.
sorry.
all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to approval of the agenda. It looks like we have one item that was crossed off.
May I ask that we move the staff reports up so that way as we go through the details of the audit and everything else, they can leave in a timely fashion? So we'd move number 11
Mhm.
to number 7,
Before the public
For the
hearing.
public hearing.
or after, just up, so that way it's,
You also have Independence Day fireworks petition in there as well. Don't know if you want to think that into what you move where.
Why don't we do it after the Independence Day fireworks? So we'll do it as 9A.
So you're just moving 14 to after 9, correct?
Yes.
Or no, I'm sorry.
11.
You're moving 11
11.
to after 9,
Yeah.
and you're striking 14.
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll make that motion to approve the amended agenda as discussed.
Support. We have a motion with support. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. Moving on to consent agenda. We have approval of minutes for the regular meeting of May 13th and approval of bills as of May 21st, 2025 for $139,116.67.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
All right, any discussion?
No discussion.
No discussion.
No discussion.
So,
Not allowed.
Fine. Then no discussion.
Okay.
We have a motion with support. Roll call, please.
Mackenzie Peters,
Aye.
Ian Williams absent, Robert Bishop,
aye.
Tracy Gillespie's absent, Richard Hamilton,
Aye.
John Osterbon is absent, Kevin Smith.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, public comment. We have a limit of 3 minutes per speaker. If you could please state your name and address and step up to the podium and welcome Mr. Osterbon. All right, moving on to reserve time. We have Brandon, please.
Good evening. It's nice to be here again. and tell you what's going on with the engineering projects here in the village. The Ball Henry Trail bridges are under TAP. The TAP grant is under review. There were some comments that we received. Had a meeting with Craig and Alec, and Catherine was on that as well, just to how to address those comments. They pushed back a little on the need to actually resurface the road, which we thought was a little bit stunning. So I sent an intern out here to take a picture and catalog every crack and root intrusion and all the stuff that's in there. So we sent them pages of pictures that demonstrate certainly the need for that, and with the bridges as well too. They push back, and so well, the bridges are they that diminished? And they are. We had a report which we then submitted to, so that's moving forward. Haven't heard anything on the DNR Trust Fund grant, but I do not expect to hear anything at this time from the DNR Trust Fund grant. So we should hear something in September on initial score. We'll have an opportunity to improve our score if needed on that project. So and I'm started on the permitting as well, and it looks like we're going to need a mussel survey, believe it or not. Yes, the little mussels there. This is kind of a new thing from Eagle that happened on our Ionia County project and Looking Glass River, and I wasn't quite expecting it here, but sounds like that's going to be part of it. So we reached out to ASTI, this company that specializes in that. So that's part of it too. The High Street, B&L will place the last of the sidewalk. I don't believe they've done that yet. They're coordinating with the village to share a load of concrete. The High Street retaining wall, Kederberg, is just about done. So that I'll just check if there's any punch list items or anything there, and then we'll get some as-built and have use of that. Irving Road Phase 1, Georgetown Construction was the low bidder. They came in at $1,057,000, which was over $100,000 less than our construction cost opinion. And the pre-construction meeting was today at 1 o'clock. Construction is scheduled to start on June 9th and is expected to continue until the start of school in August. Maybe a little later. They have 124 days, which actually pushes it to October, but they were thinking they'd be done much sooner than that.
Yep.
So, all right, Railroad Street is in the design phase. Irving Road Phase 2 is also in the design phase. The Irving Road storage tank was inspected. I mentioned that was going to happen the day after my last report. So I have not yet seen the report, but I didn't hear of anything amiss. So we'll get that and incorporate any work that needs to be done in the tank into the Phase 2. And then at the Mid Villa, I believe they're still on hold while the buildings are under construction. I see a lot of that green pipe up there, that sewer pipe. So they're going to be putting in, looks like laterals. So that'll be laterals from the buildings to the main sewer. At the wastewater treatment plant, it's been discovered since I last spoke to you that it wasn't actually hard water that was fouling the diffusers. It was actually biosolids. Activated sludge was getting in between the plastic case and the HDPE diffuser membranes. So the way they work is air fills the frame, which is plastic, and it stretches these black rubber tubes, and there's like 50 tubes on each diffuser, and there's 5 racks of diffusers in each tank. And so then when the air fills that, it opens the slots, and you get a fine bubble. And then it's supposed to, when the air shuts off, it's just supposed to close. Nothing's supposed to get in there. But I believe there's a design flaw from Aqua in this diffuser design. So we are in communication. We've sent them pictures. They responded that they'll have a proposal for us. So I hope that proposal includes them providing all the stuff at no cost to the village. That's what George wants, Alec wanted. So we're going to continue to push back on that. We use the same system at a neighboring plant there in Dorr that came in a little bit before this one, and they haven't had any problems with their diffusers. And they admitted that they made a minor design change. So, and then they've since got back away from that. So I'll keep you up to date on that. And then I'll get to the parking lot too. So I'll pass that on to our staff to take a look at that. So
Okay.
any other questions or any questions from anybody on the board?
No, that's good.
Thank you.
Yep. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Ms. Getty. Welcome.
Good evening. What a nice weekend we just had, right? So news from the county, we had a ARPA report this morning. So one of the highlights of that was the emergency services tower here. So that project is complete. Also a second tower, as you probably are aware of, in Nashville. So really expanded our services for 911. COA is getting ready to break ground. I should have a date, and as soon as I know, I'll forward it to Craig, and he'll get it out. But that is set to break ground very soon. We had a report from MSU Extension today. They have a new pending new director. They haven't made the announcement, but they did interviews. Scott Korpak, and I'm not sure if he ever presented here in the village, but he was director for a short time and moved back into K through 12 education. So expect a new director there. What was really interesting about the MSU Extension report is we know we have a very robust 4-H program in Berry County, and we've heard the statistics. They bring in just a tremendous amount of money for those 4-H kids, but also experience and knowledge. We're about twice the enrollees in 4-H as Allegan or Kent County, and substantially bigger counties. So we really have a real treasure here in Berry County. Household hazardous waste was May 17th, a huge success there. We had to stop accepting electronics and tires because we had filled all of our semis, and we're at capacity, so people were turned away and have to come back in the fall. We're still working on our materials management plan. We're just getting underway with that. Of course, Tracy Gillespie is on that, so she'll report on what that committee is doing. And then the Bailey Nature Preserve public dedication is set for June 7th at 11 o'clock. And it's a bit of a drive, but I will tell you, I think it's worth it. From here, it's on the corner of North and Baseline Avenue, and that was property that was transferred from the city of Battle Creek to Berry County, along with a really nice endowment from the Bailey family to help maintain that property. We've installed a parking lot, done some minor improvements. We're waiting to hear back for a grant to install some more accessible trails, but there is a nice trail system there. There's a nice place to put a kayak in, and access Wabaskin Creek. So anybody that wants to come down to that, it's on the Berry County Parks Facebook page too, but it's June 7th at 11 o'clock. And I can, like, if you want to go, I'll send you directions. Any questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys have a long meeting.
Yes.
All right. And let's go for it. 2024 annual audit.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to your meeting again, like you do every year. That tells us the audit is important to you and you take an interest in it. I want to start by expressing our appreciation for the long-term relationship we've had with the village. As I drove here, I was trying to remember what year I started working with the village. I think it was 1998 or 1999. So that made me feel kind of, Mark's probably been here about as long. 2002. Oh, okay.
Bingo.
Well, that's a compliment to all the consultants that you have. I think that's important that you keep those long-term relationships. There's a lot of institutional knowledge there that's a very beneficial thing. So appreciate the long-term relationship. We've always enjoyed working with the people here. A lot of interesting things we've seen over the years. Really like working with Greg and Glormar. Got to know them. I felt a little better this year with more questions, good questions that they were asking. Appreciated their assistance. I also, when I think of your audit, one of the things that is very good about your relationship with your you have an accountant and an auditor. So that's kind of a trend that we're seeing with more municipalities. You were one of the first ones to do that, and I think that's really beneficial for your internal reporting as well as allowing for a cleaner audit. So I think those are both good relationships to have. Excuse me, when I get a chance to talk to the council, I like to talk about three main things. Those are our auditor communications, make a few comments about the financial condition of the village, and then talk about any recommendations that we might have. It looks like most of you have a copy of that. I won't get into too many details, but I do like to start with the independent auditor's report. If you like to follow along, that's the page immediately after the table of contents. This is important to us because it's the only item within this booklet, if you will, that belongs exclusively to us, because that's what you hired us to do, to give an opinion on the financial statements. In the second paragraph in that report, we give our opinion and we say that the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. It's known as an unmodified opinion now, a clean opinion, but far too often I hear in the media, it's a clean opinion, everything must be fine, go on. And really, sometimes nothing can be further from the truth, because the only way we can give that opinion is when management makes all the corrections that we ask them to make. So there are some municipalities I might make 2 and 3 dozen corrections, but I still give this exact same report. If you go to the state's website, you'll see 2,000 reports of local governments. They all read word for word like this. So it's not a special report for you. It's a report that's developed by the Audit Standards Board that we can only give it if we make no more corrections. So that's important to know. And we talk a little bit more about management's responsibility at the end of that page, where we say that the fair presentation of the financial statements and internal control is ultimately management's responsibility. Even though we prepared this phone book for you, one of my staff members said, "What's a phone book?" And I said that at a meeting recently. That just shows you how old I am again. But it's important to us that you know that it's management's responsibility to put this document together and ultimately have responsibility over the checks and balances on your transactions. So that's important to know. Another report that we issued that you may or may not have with you, it's not bound in that document, is what we call our management letter. It addresses 6 to 8 different things in writing now. The one that gets the most attention relates to comments regarding internal controls. We're not giving you an opinion on the internal controls, but it's something that we have to evaluate when we plan and perform your audit. So if we find problems in internal controls, we have to put those in writing and tell you about them. We usually have a bullet point list of things that we do. A couple of the adjustments related to capitalizing fixed assets, recording depreciation. This year we had a couple of adjustments. It shows you how challenging it can be, governmental accounting, because you had two CPA firms and we both missed a receivable in the previous year, which was very unusual. We never like to report that error correction, but there was a receipt that came in on the 6th of January that was missed. So we had to make one correction related to that and another one related to the High Street Road. As a matter of fact, the construction costs weren't accrued. So we did make a couple of corrections this year and a couple that we expect to. Just a couple comments about financial condition and your financial position on page 17, if you'd like to follow along. Page 17 is a balance sheet for your governmental funds. It's a picture at a point in time, if you will, of your financial position. The primary question I get asked from council members, board members is, what's our fund balance and is it a good one? The column to the left, it's getting awfully small, but towards the middle of the page, you'll see something called unassigned fund balance. It's about $1,875,000. You can't really evaluate that number unless you compare it to something. So I always look at your current year's expenditures. If you do the math, it's 79% of your current year's expenditures. That's an excellent financial position, very healthy. The typical village or city in Michigan is probably somewhere between 10 and 25. So at 79, it's not excessive at all, especially in these times, but it's certainly healthy and probably in a better position than I've seen in those 25 years, I would say. Your street funds also in total have about $1.7 million of fund balance or equity available to spend. My guess is your engineer's ready to help you spend that.
That's why he comes to our meetings.
Yeah. I shouldn't have let on what the number was, right? oftentimes the cities and villages I work with, especially the local street fund, there's almost all the equity of that fund gets used up every year. So it's nice that you're building up equity there. The governmental funds are very healthy. If you flip over a couple of pages to page 20, there we talk about your proprietary funds. It's different terminology because it's a different basis of accounting. The accounting is, the transactions are accounted for like a business where you have all the long-term assets and liabilities. But what's important to know is near the bottom of the page, we have something called unrestricted net position. That's the equity or net worth of those funds. The sewer fund is at about 2.7 million. The water fund's at $586,000. Those might sound like significant amounts to customers. But as probably all of you know, 2.7 million can go away very quickly in a project or significant repair or maintenance. And the water fund with only 586,000, that's adequate, but relatively modest. So you've done a nice job evaluating your rates and raising those over the last few years. So that has really improved. If we looked further at the financial statements, you'll see that each of the funds generated operating income and increased the equity in those funds. So overall, the village as a whole and each of its funds is really very healthy as I've seen it in the 20-some years that I've been here. So that's a compliment to all of you. Now, with that said, as an auditor, I always have to point out the negatives, right? And not so much a negative, but I always try to come up with recommendations if I can. So a couple of the things that you could work on are there's some budget variances this year. And most of the municipalities I work with have some budget variances just because things come up during the year and amendments aren't made. You could probably monitor that a little more carefully. There's some restrictions on the equity in the general fund. Actually, Glormar asked quite a lot of the questions about that. So in the next year, we're going to really evaluate those carefully and make sure that those are accurate and being used up, if you will. The marijuana money, if you will, that you get for the annual fees is very restricted on what you can spend it on. So we want to help you evaluate how can you spend that money and spend it down. And then I also, Greg, let me know that you were thinking of going out for bids for the audit next year, which is fine. We love competition. That's a good thing. But I would just tell you that it's been interesting over the last number of years since what's known as Sarbanes-Oxley in the commercial world, all the changes that have been made there. What they're seeing is that frequent changes of audits and audit partners ends up causing more audit failures because people on the commercial side, when they want to commit financial reporting fraud, they're probably going to do it to the new auditors because they're trying to learn everything that's going on, and it's easier to get that by them in the first year. So the GAO or Governmental Accounting Office has done studies that says maybe mandatory auditor rotation isn't a good thing. And then people also say that it's good to get a fresh set of eyes. I've heard that comment so many times, and I guess I disagree with that just because I think it's so important to have institutional knowledge. You have that with your engineers, you have that with your attorneys. I don't see a difference between that and your auditors. You just want to evaluate them to see if they're doing a good job at a fair price. So just a few comments in response to that, but we'd be glad to submit a proposal to you. I'd be happy to answer any questions now, or we're always available throughout the year. I want to make sure all of you are aware of that. If you ever have any concerns that an auditor can help with, we're always available.
Just a very brief question, and that is, I know that anytime I've ever participated in an audit directly, there's usually, especially in a budget of this complexity, when it comes to recommendations for, you mentioned multiple times that we have a healthy fund balance. We also have some administrative costs long-term that I feel like we're dragging our feet on somewhat. And I know that we've spent a lot of the last at least 3 to 4 years trying to catch up on some of those things. Would those be items that we could get a little bit more perspective in terms of maybe even just getting comparisons to other municipalities with regard to those types of recurring expenses that just don't seem to go away, and that we are obligated to pay, but we also are carrying forward a lot of balance from a little bit of neglect in the past. And I think we've tried very hard to get those balances caught up. But are those those things that we could be bringing to you and saying, hey, is this, what is a healthy curve? I feel like sometimes when we raise our water rates, or if we add to a fund or a retirement fund or whatever that is, I always feel like we do so with about this much information that we convey to the public. And I would wonder if that would be something that you could help us give a more detailed, structured response to why we're doing what we're doing.
We could definitely do that. Can't say that we've done something specifically like that, but we work with 180 governments.
Yeah.
So it's easy for us to compare you to others, although a lot of you're not exactly like the next village.
Yeah.
But I think what you're getting at is you have certain capital costs and repairs and maintenance costs that you've delayed. And we're definitely seeing more municipalities create what's known as capital project funds, so that you have a separate internal fund to set aside money for, you wouldn't do it in a sewer or water fund, but maybe even for roads. Instead, we see this a lot with townships where they have to buy a fire truck every 10 years. They put $100,000 in a separate capital project fund so that money is available. Far too many governments I work with don't have a long-term perspective. So it's just the next year's budget when you have to really think 20 years out a lot of times. And more townships or more municipalities are creating not capital project funds, but internal funds where they can set money aside for repairs and maintenance. Even something like a cemetery. I work with a township that has now set aside $500,000 for future repairs and maintenance on the cemetery, because they've really planned ahead and realized we have at least that much in costs. We don't want to have to come up with that all of a sudden when we need significant repairs. So that's something to consider, to have those types of internal funds really to set money aside for those things, if that helps.
It does. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, I have a question too, Mr. President. You are repeating this deficiency relative to an internal-external audit relationship, in the fact that you recommend that that be fixed, and the answer you get back is it's not cost-effective. So I'm wondering, when you say keeping the same auditor year after year is a better situation than changing. So what's wrong with having an external auditor versus an internal auditor that we use to help us through this day by day, month by month, quarter by quarter auditing before you get it?
That's an excellent question. You have.
I mean, it seems like it's good for you, but not good for us.
That's an interesting way to look at it. I would say there's really three alternatives. Most of our municipal clients try to handle things on their own, and they just don't have the staff to record all the transactions that are required. They don't have that kind of experience. So, but they're fine with getting these types of material weaknesses that we have to, by our professional standards, record. Then you could also acquire internal staff to do that for you at a cost of maybe $100,000 for somebody who would be capable of doing that. Then it doesn't become cost effective. So I really think the way that you have it set up is the best way, because you have a very competent accountant helping you at the end of the year mostly, and can come in through the year. And then when we do the audit, theoretically, we wouldn't have any adjustments. It just so happens that the last few years we've come up with some adjustments. Our goal and their goal would be to have no adjustments, and then we could actually eliminate those comments and say that there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. So that's the ultimate goal, and you are really close to that. So if you didn't have that relationship with the other CPA firm, you would have a laundry list of corrections in those bullet points. So I really think you're at the right place. I would love to get rid of that comment that says you have material weaknesses. And we can do that. Of 180 clients, I think we say that about 6 times a year. So that just tells you how difficult it is to put this document together without some of our assistance. Does that help you answer that?
Yeah, when I read it, I thought, we're almost got this comment gone, because we've got an excellent young lady running our accounting business here. She's taking a lot of classes and doing a great job. So, yeah, you've answered it.
Okay.
Keep doing what we're doing
I would say
and get
you-
better at it.
Yes, I think you are, we'll keep working with Glormar, and I know the accountants very well that you work with.
Yeah.
Maybe if you had him in more frequently, because he has to do an awful lot right at the end of the year right before we come in. And it's really easy to miss 1 or 2 things, so.
He comes in about once every month or two to
Oh,
help.
is it that frequent?
Yes, it is
Okay,
actually right
okay.
now. And he's doing some external training with Glormar too, to help her out with some things. So,
Oh, good.
yeah, he's been working with her all along.
Peter is semi-retired, but he's one of the more capable accountants that I know in governmental accounting.
Yep,
so.
no, he works with her quite often. So,
Okay, good. Excellent question.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, looks like we're moving on to public hearing to approve Amendment 5 to the Village of Middleville Development and Tax Increment Financing Plan. Hi.
good evening. So this is Amendment 5, which is being recommended to the Local Development Finance Authority Plan. The LDFA was first adopted in 1999 to help support infrastructure projects specific to industrial growth in the village. It has supported many projects in the village since its inception, including the Crane Road Bridge project between M37 and Grand Rapids Street, routine maintenance and upgrades to Grand Rapids Street and to Main Street, Crane Road Well House and Water Improvement Project, High Street Reconstruction Project, which helped, finance that, and moving forward, Irving Road Project, and also a new well, which we do need in the village, is in the plan. A new gas main to support industrial growth is in the new plan also. And also any other unfinished projects will remain in the plan until we are able to complete those as necessary, so. So at this time, you'd need to
All right.
close the,
Well, I would like to close the regular session and open a public hearing session. We are now in the open public hearing. Any public comments?
I don't think everybody knows. I'm Laura Bouchard, the treasurer for Thornapple Township. And I know you've had the LDFA going for a while and it's basically renewing again. But I just wanted to be here on behalf of the township that we just want to make sure that you understand that we want to opt out of our emergency services millage from the collection. You definitely are, we're not disputing that our regular millage for the project. But I know I dropped it off in writing. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew about that. That's all.
Thank you. Any other further comments? All right. I'd like to close the public hearing. Begin the regular session.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Are you done, Craig?
I'm sorry?
Are you done?
Yep, this is time for
This is
council
our,
discussion.
this is our time.
Yep.
I've been wondering when we reach a point of saturation of TIFs. The reason I say that is we're counting on the future tax collections incrementally and taking out a bond to do all these capital improvements. We're paying heavy interest penalty on those bonds. As we build and build and build, we keep tiffing things. There's got to be some point where this doesn't make sense. And that we really need to be putting together a capital fund that earns interest itself and not paying interest on bonds. I know we're sort of stuck in a cycle here that started a long time ago, and that's probably the reason why we're at. We don't have a capital fund that will cover a lot of these big projects. And there are some projects that are so big, you probably couldn't amass a capital fund to take care of them, such as the sewer, for example. So that, I just want to raise this as a precautionary thing. I think we should require our management here to give us a report on the differential between tiffing and capital funding and the interest that you could earn on those dollars that are being lost on the TIF. Lost in effect on being able to earn money.
Yeah.
Okay? It's a simple thing, but a very complicated one.
It is very.
Simple to talk about, but complicated to get out of a hole like that. To me, it looks like a hole that we keep digging, particularly when we talk about what needs to come up. The water tower. Yeah, we're growing, 5,000 people soon. So we
Can I
gotta think differently, maybe.
Just one note on that. We do invest the funds from the LDFA and the DDA in, the similar manner that we do with our general fund and
Yes.
other funds. So they are earning interest and things like that.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I think more information, though, I don't disagree with you. I think it's, again, whenever we make a long-term decision like this is 10 years, right? So it's nice to know where we stand, making sure that there is that differential between interest payments versus interest earned. The one comment that I do want to make about the LDFA, and this was something that I challenged during the meeting, is why do we even have it? Because again, I think to your point, there comes a point to where we have a lot of these programs. Are we putting them to good use? Are they beneficial? And it's interesting because, and I'm going to use the Crane Road Bridge, for instance. That was an astronomically expensive project. We couldn't have possibly helped fund that with our current finance. And even as healthy as we are, we still would have fallen radically short on the ability to help fund that appropriately. So the LDFA is really, to be quite frank, something that it's a tool in the tool belt that we probably pull out every now and then. And I think even with Irving Road, I feel like given the industrial growth that we have in the village and surrounding areas, having thoroughfares to come and go and having those roads be stable and well kept. Having a bridge, for instance, diverted traffic completely from the downtown, where we used to have semi trucks through downtown all the time, causing immeasurable damage to our downtown, the bricks that we eventually replaced, thank goodness. But those kind of projects do only come along 7 years. We wouldn't begin to know what's going to happen next. Maybe our sewer plant has a design flaw that
I think it does.
just hypothetically. But those projects could amass an enormous amount of expense, and I think that's where the LDFA really kind of steps up. And as our partner Bradford White has been, in particular, if we didn't have that resource available to us, we wouldn't have been able to keep up with that type of shift, right? Which was a radical shift, I think, to some degree. So I agree. It's something to keep an eye on, but I also agree that after it was explained in detail, I'm glad that I spent a few minutes just to learn a little bit more about where those funds are placed and why. It's an economic growth tool. It's an economic retention tool. If we weren't able to do some of the things for Bradford White, we may have very well, I mean, they're always looking. They have the money to be able to look
Yeah,
elsewhere.
there's always a cost benefit related to each one of those projects. I'm just suggesting that maybe we ought to have this in front of us.
Yeah.
Frequently,
Yeah.
every quarter or something, just to see where we're at.
Yeah, I agree.
That's all.
I definitely agree. But it's something that I think is invaluable. It's, again, another tool in the tool belt that otherwise we may suffer if we didn't have it. But any other further discussion about?
I just have a question because I'm going to take this opportunity as a learning experience, but what would be the difference in pooling of funds with a capital improvement, what you were saying, versus a TIF? Because a TIF would pull incremental tax from various sources versus a capital improvement, and this is my assumption, would then only be reliant on one or relying on a joint effort between municipalities. So instead of utilizing just one source, we're able to pool from multiple sources. That's what I
Sure,
understand.
That's my whole point. We don't know the difference.
Right,
I
right,
see.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. There is a little bit of opacity there only because of the complexity, but I'm sure we could.
Yeah, it would be, I mean, we'd be pulling basically from the village general fund sources, right? You know, rather than the township or the county and DDA and those other, we're capturing from their,
Tax base.
Shit.
tax base also.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good question. Thank you. Well, I'll make a motion.
Nope,
We don't have it on there.
not yet.
It's not on here. I think just to move it forward to where we can.
When we get down to ordinances and resolutions.
Oh, there, okay.
Okay.
It's down there.
Right.
Well, you did make this a busy one, didn't you?
It's all, it's,
How dare you?
it's my fault.
It's item D, 10D.
Mhm.
Okay, I guess for if there's any additional discussion at that time, but again, super good question and certainly something that we're going to need to double down on. I think that's a great recommendation.
Sure. And I'd be happy to share the quarterly meeting, agendas and reports with everybody. I can email them easily to everybody. So do that and answer any additional questions at that point.
Okay,
Thank you.
excellent. Well, we're going to move on to petitions and communications. And Ms. Nicholson for the Independence Day fireworks with the Lions Club. Hello.
How you doing?
Good.
Hello.
So I'm Karen with the Lions Club, and I'm here in regards to our petition for the Independence Day fireworks.
Moving on down here.
Thought we passed that.
No, we did the
Funding.
month funding for
Yeah,
it.
the contract.
Okay.
So this is for the actual event permit.
Yeah.
So if I can, and just to get this moving, since it's a very long agenda, I'll make a motion to approve the firework permit application.
Or,
We have a motion with support. Any further discussion? All right.
That was
We
easy.
can just do all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion passes. Hooray.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, and good job on the parade.
Oh, thank you.
You're
That
welcome.
was great. Let's see.
okay,
All right, moving on to resolution.
No.
Okay, staff reports. Craig, I'm sorry, I have it written right in front of me.
That's okay.
Should have been in red ink.
There's a lot. It's been a lot. So everybody should have a copy of my report. in front of you, or hopefully you had a chance to review it. One addition, sad to report that Alec Belson has been swayed to another position. Alec's last day with the village is going to be June 20th. I told him he needed to stay for at least June 27th, but I don't think that's going to happen. Got an offer he could not refuse, so that's happening. So the closed session portion that was originally on the agenda, President Smith and I made him an offer a verbal offer in order to try to keep him here. So that was going to be to discuss that, but he declined. So that's why it's no longer on there. So we'll go out, we'll advertise for a new Public Works Director. I'll work with President to, get that out there as soon as we can in whatever manner that's going to look like. Additionally, I'm going to propose hiring an additional administrative assistant and moving Kim up to Public Works Garage permanently as an administrative assistant to whoever we end up hiring in that role. Over the past couple months that she's been assisting up there part-time, it's been a really great help and really taken a lot off of Alec's plate. Obviously, not enough yet, and I wish I had done that sooner, but it is kind of is what it is right now. So, I'll be next meeting asking for permission to add staff as an additional administrative assistant, so we can keep as many good people here as we can. So, any questions on my report or any of that?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
This kind of shocked to me. It must be
It was shocking to me
everybody.
too.
Were we doing something not soon enough? Or can I ask that question? I did just ask it. So I did ask it.
You did ask it. So, honestly, I didn't know it was even a possibility, Mr. Hamilton. I thought, that we had a really good, I think we still do have a really good relationship. I don't think there's anything, deliberate that, anybody did or anything like that. When I first got here, we had to first hire planning, zoning. Then we had to make some changes internally with the finance director position. And then we, ultimately made some changes DDA wise. And next was to, try to get, Alec everything he needed, but I apparently didn't do it fast enough. So I don't think it's anything necessarily that we did or didn't do. According to, and he's told me this, he told this to Kevin, was not looking at all, was approached by another agency in the county with, really lucrative offer. And it's just unfortunately the way that goes.
Yeah, he was a good man. I can't imagine him complaining about anything.
Well, that's
I mean,
part of,
maybe that's part of the problem.
I think that honestly probably is, we have meetings all the time, sometimes daily, and, how can it, what can we do? And it's like, no, I've got it,
Yep.
and type of deal. And well, it probably wasn't, not as, I got it as much as,
Yeah, we all wish him good luck and
absolutely.
best wishes.
Yes.
Great man, good man.
Yep. Tremendous person, tremendous, benefit to the village, the 10 years that he's been here, and we'll miss him dearly, but we will definitely move on, and we'll pick up, the pieces that we need to, and we'll be all right. But it's going to be, be impossible to replace him specifically, but we will all, pick up the pieces and make it happen. So,
Yeah, I think the big concern is that lead pipe thing, staying on top of that.
yep.
I mean, because the money is gonna be gone.
Yep, we're really on top of that. We've got checks. We've got things in place to make that happen. Kim specifically has been working directly with that already. And we've got charts and
Schedules,
what's that?
schedules.
Yes, schedules and everything for all that. When we do the Irving Road project, that's going to take care of a lot of those lead lines right there in that project this year already. So we're going to keep moving that along. And
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, I think it'll be a loss absolutely to lose Alec, and he's a really good man who's very much on top of what he does. And I appreciate his candor for sharing, at least with the two of you, what his experience was. And I think sounds like we have a good, healthy attitude, so we don't burn out a next director moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, we're really fortunate here with the staff we have, we
Yeah.
really do have an excellent, people that work here. And
And
I try to treat them really well, and I do as much as I can, but, sometimes, it's,
and sometimes you can't. If
Yep.
someone doesn't tell you, how do you know to fix it?
Yep.
So try not to take it too personal.
well, I definitely am,
Yeah.
but that's just kind of part of my deal.
I know.
So.
A couple of quick questions about, I noticed in your report, we have 5 of the 6 cameras operational. I know that we were running into some issues with access to that system in general. And how is that progressing?
That has been completely fixed. They've coordinated efforts with Sergeant Ware, and in fact, he was able to, he'll probably report on this next month when he reports, but there were a couple hits, and they were actually able to track somebody down that was tearing up one of our driveways. So yeah, it's already working.
Excellent.
Yep.
That's great to hear.
Yep. And then I want to give you another update on the Paul Henry Trail Bridge Replacement Project. We put those signs out asking for donations. We're up to a little over $2,000 actually in community donations. And we received a $5,000 anonymous check in the mail, which we have no idea where it came from. So that on top of, everything else, we're growing that fund tremendously. So we should be able to get our match that we need for those grants before too long.
When does that, just out of curiosity, when would that close out, or when would we stop receiving donations?
I don't know. I'd probably
Never.
keep taking money as long as people are going to keep giving
Yeah.
it. But I would say, through the end
Project
of the summer.
beginning?
Yeah.
Just until the project
Yeah.
kicks off?
Yep.
Okay, all
Don't tell the auditor you don't know where it came from.
right. Anonymous checks coming
Right.
in the mail. All right, great, thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Powers. Welcome.
Good evening, council. So there were a handful of permits related to the planning and zoning that you see before you. Beyond that, I do have a handful of notes in regards to other items, committee updates. And some of these may be tensed wrong because originally I was planning on some of the resolution stuff being discussed before this. So hopefully if we have comments, questions, or concerns related to any resolution or ordinance, we could talk about it at that time. But we've gotten some additional feedback from the developer working on 36th State Street. They're hoping to give us a development agreement that we can review and then discuss with the attorney, hopefully towards the end of this week. With the 115 High Street property, I was informed it was going to be painted by Memorial Day. But then last update we received was he was waiting until the parking lot was finished, which I believe the parking lot is done. It's going to be within the next few days that we should have, it striped and all of those items. But if anyone has any questions, anything you want me to go into in greater detail?
I have one question, just because
Sure.
I talked about it recently.
What's that?
115 High Street, is he
Yes.
going to be on track for his agreed to?
So as of right now, the only deadline would be towards the end of August, where he's anticipated to have his certificate of occupancy and everything done. So it's very difficult to say. that speaking with him, he's been optimistic and said that he's rented the space out in the September timeframe. But
Yeah.
I know that the window has been replaced. Beyond that, I can't really comment because I don't see a ton of improvements beyond the ones that I'd previously provided to the council.
And just piggyback on that, we've given multiple extensions gracefully for this project, to the extent where I'm concerned that we will continue to do so. And it's my recommendation to Mr. Powers that we might consider other alternatives, simply because I'm just not confident. We're way over the deadline. We have been very gracious as a board and as the village. At the inception of this deal, there were two very capable, what we thought were two capable candidates to purchase that. And now we are in a scenario where that particular property is just not being improved at all. And granted, I see a roof and a window. The siding is still not where it should be. And there's just a lot of things that are very opaque about that project that I'm concerned will continue to be until that deadline. So if there's any particular plan that would either expedite, because of certainty that agreement is certainly expired in August. So, and I don't want to use harsh language to bring this up, but I think we have been more than fair to get things done, and these rolling deadlines, we continue to agree to them. So just as a comment.
So I'd be more than happy to do that. However, I think it may be more advantageous, being that the timeframe's in August, and myself and the manager discuss this and potentially forward it to legal counsel, so he could, determine what other potential options there are for the August meeting as to where the timeframe is. So when you are reviewing this in consideration, he may be able to provide some alternative options.
Perfect.
That's the same feeling I think you'd get from the planning commission,
Agreed.
is that the enthusiasm for what he's doing is primarily in his own brain.
Yeah.
And the output doesn't match it, so there you go. Glad you brought it up.
Moving on to the DDA
Thank you.
updates.
Yes. So yeah, I've listed a handful of items here and related to the various committees. Dumpster screens are being repaired as we speak. That's why you'll see some of those are missing. Street safety scanners, that's one of the items that was discussed by the council. That we're going to have, Malia is going to be coming in at the next meeting and discussing a proposal with the DDA in regards to how we could potentially address that, since that wasn't that wasn't done after our downtown blueprints back in 2003. Other items, I have some included on here. I'd be glad to discuss any of these in detail, but I don't know if there's anything you have any questions or would like me to talk about anymore.
I think that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Clark?
Good evening, everybody. How are we?
Good, how are you?
Doing well. So for this month's report, it's pretty standard. So we held the first Heritage Day meeting on May 12th. I plan to take what was discussed with the Heritage Day Committee to the DDA board on June 10th, next week on June 3rd. Our next meeting for the Heritage Day Committee is going to be June 10th. As you know, the farmers market started last Friday. Despite it being extremely cold, we had actually a pretty good turnout. A lot of people, all of our vendors were very happy. They all seemed to be in high spirits, even though it was so chilly out. What else? So far, in terms of sponsorships, I have secured a total of $10,000 in sponsorships. Additionally, I have been able to establish an official Middleville DDA page, and that will be used in conjunction with my community development coordinator page. Now, since I have the Middleville DDA page, I will be able to diversify and spread out what kind of content is used. Each page I plan to utilize for different purposes and to reach different demographics and interests. Obviously, the Middleville DDA page will be for your standard structured information that the DDA would typically share, whereas the community development coordinator page will still continue to be a page where it kind of like allows a little bit of personability, which was kind of like the goal, so that people could get to know me as more than just my title, but as a person, because I am just a regular day person, just like everybody else. Additionally, I'm currently working on a type of data tracking system for some of our events coming up. I've been kind of working on that as like a side project to try to find a way that I can best collect as much data as possible to really determine like what is our engagement looking like. Just to kind of answer more of those questions, just outside of just like age group and like like for example, like the Riverbank series, like is there maybe like a genre that attracts like a certain like demographic more than other genres, and is there certain bands that pull in more crowds, and is it because they have a following, is it because they like that genre? And I kind of plan to utilize this data tracking system that I'm creating for more than just like the Riverbank series, but really for all of our events, to really kind of dive into like the nitty gritty of like what is working, what isn't working, what needs to change, what needs to stay the same, or what needs to be, thrown out and, start over, and what is it kind of like looking like, and are our residents happy with the events and how they're going? Are our vendors happy with our events and the way that they're going? Are our musicians, are they happy with the way that the Riverbank music series going? Is there anything that makes it different? And then kind of taking that data and trying to figure out like what can be changed for next year.
Nice.
And then I'm also kind of like diving into some ideas for social media and how we can implement some certain campaigns based on similar towns or cities that are very similar to Middleville, and what are they doing that's successful, and how can Middleville look at that and take on similar content. Are there any questions?
Yes, I have one. Where did you learn how to do all this?
I actually learned from my professor at Cornerstone University. I always had a really keen interest in statistics and marketing and data, and how you can actually utilize that to get the information that you want to make your job essentially like a little bit easier, instead of, and how you can kind of like streamline to get the answers and the data to be able to utilize and move things forward.
I'm personally impressed with your approach.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Milestones, throwing out stuff that's not working, looking ahead. You could have worked for me when I was engineering manager at General Motors. Might have saved him from bankruptcy. He's a very good employee. I'm impressed, Cassandra. Good
Thank
job.
you. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
And good job on the downtown current. That was nice.
My turn.
Hi, Bob.
Grass is growing. Any questions?
Grass is good.
What about the weeds?
That's the gist of it.
Stay away from my 3 acres until I get somebody to mow it. No, I got somebody.
If there's anything you can do to make it greener, that'd be great.
That is truly about, that's the gist of it right now. We have a couple of unique we've got 2 evictions going on in Misty Ridge right now, and that's long distance everywhere. So, to get in touch with the people that need to know.
I got a question. Is Seneca Ridge on there?
I'm sorry?
Is Seneca Ridge on Sherman Street, is that on there?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's not on the,
because the property that butts up against Carver's Village is
Listen,
totally out of control.
listen.
Oh,
we
the
want
grass?
green belt
No.
back. Leave
No,
it
I have-
alone. Leave
No.
it.
The green belt you got right now is thistles and weeds,
Yeah, but something.
about 24 inches high.
no, I did not put that on there. It's, I think we need some goats.
Hey, hey,
And fencing to go with it, huh?
Hey, we-
Okay,
we
it's pretty
planted
bad.
I have not talked to them
Pretty
to
bad.
mow that, but there's so much construction going on in the interior that they're taking them up, putting up the houses as fast as they can, so.
don't worry, Dick. I planted some
You're gonna mow it?
hydrangeas and some lilac bushes to
I
block the
saw
view
it,
of that,
yeah.
yeah. Okay.
It defines where you are
Mhm.
and you're in compliance.
Well,
It won't be long.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you a lot. Any other liaison reports?
I have some.
Thank you.
Met with the TAPRC Commission. We went over a lot of different things, mainly tightened up our survey that will be rotating around, firmed up some pop-up events that we're going to do to get some community input. So that's going to be on the 27th of June at the Farmers Market in conjunction with the Rotary Tool Sharpening event that's free for people. There's that little plug so Rich can say I did it. And then we're also doing July 4th. So that will be Catherine and I at because I'm able to go now. So at the 27th, and then Ray Rickard and I on the 4th up at the fireworks. So that'll be good. And then working on
When was the tool sharpening event?
the June 27th.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we're hoping to get a lot of good. We're doing penny jars. We're doing put 10 pennies where you think we need to focus on, things like that. And we also, I think, have firmed up a date for the joint meeting. I think we sent out a doodle poll. It's out there. Not finalized. Okay. So we're working on that. And then for the library meeting, we had that last week as well. And they're looking forward, brought up some of the points that Craig, Kate and I had discussed in our one meeting, and everyone's pretty excited about that potential, just waiting on a joint meeting for that so we can, because we're waiting to release the information of the feasibility study after you guys have that, we have that chance to discuss it first, so. And that's it.
A lot of what would be reported is coming up in item 10. But I just want to throw out this master plan update. Doug's going to need a little help cranking. If we take the same model as we have now, same structure, there's a lot of data update according to census and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just throwing out that we need to support that. It's a big job.
Huge. All right. Moving back to ordinances and resolutions. Mr. Powers.
So the subject is for consideration of the resolution number 25-13, is establishment of social district and related. I also included ordinance amendment 2141, because at the time, it did not look like we're going to have as many resolutions and ordinances. And a lot of the information is, duplicated in these. So the recommendation that I had included, you can omit the second part, that this would be staff recommends adoption of resolution number 25-13 to establish a social district in downtown Middleville. Of course, in order for this to be considered, the ordinance 2141 would have to also be adopted later at today's meeting. So some of the background you have before you, this has been being, considered since early 2024, even though there's records dating before that. But at the DDA's direction, I've worked with the village attorney to prepare the following documents, being Resolution 25-13, along with a local management and maintenance plan, and Ordinance 2141, an amendment to Section 38-36 of the Village Code. That these documents have all been included as part of your packet. Also, this is not, if this was all to be adopted, this is not the final step. As you see that there are still future steps that need to be moved forward in order for any of this to be considered. Anyone have any questions related to this?
I did have one. On the social district, wow. Yeah. I was quite curious when I saw the map, why does it go so far up Main Street? of
So the-
Farrell's?
So the reason as to why the map is, I don't know, if I'm just able to move to the
Yep.
map
Hang on.
so everyone can see. But the reason as to why this area was included as it is.
Is that Baby Bliss, right?
So yes, this is all commercial in nature. It has been historically the entire time up,
Oh,
for
okay. I
over 100
didn't think
years.
about that. You're right.
That's,
You got
commercial on this end. And as well as this is where the end of the commercial is on the south side of Maine, where that business, we just had it going to the door instead of towards the parking lot. And if you're going towards the east, that's also commercial.
Okay.
Anything beyond that point has not been commercial historically. So that's why the map was drawn out the way it is. That I've had multiple conversations with the president as well as the DDA board to try to fine tune what we thought would be the best layout or map for establishing a social district based on the current usages of properties.
Okay, I forgot about the building in the corner where Baby Bliss used to be.
Yeah.
I guess, to me, it looked like why would go that was all residential, but I forgot about the other side.
The one question I have about High Street, because we talk a lot about High Street and activating that.
Yep.
What's the downside of continuing down through that area?
So the only downside, because previous versions of the map did have this indicated as going down High Street, but the only concern would be right now with the adjacent properties, some are established as residential at grade and some, could potentially have that option pending zoning. We, have development that's in process. So with the concern about potentially having people living at ground level and being able to potentially have open beverages in front of their house, that was one of the comments or concerns that I had read, and that's why this has been revised accordingly.
Is there any concern from enforcement side? It seems like it's a fairly large area to be enforcing or to keep an eye, If I read it correctly, you're saying the alcohol has to be consumed in a cup or something that says Middleville or whatever.
So it has to have a special logo, specific container
So they
that to be
Oh,
consumed
beer.
within that area. That is correct. So from the enforcement standpoint, that the enforcement is done by the law enforcement. I have been discussing this with Sergeant Ware, and I know he has also reached out to, multiple other communities to try to perceive what their comments and concerns are. Majority of the feedback that I had received was reaching out from like Wayland and Hastings, where they haven't seen, any significant changes due to enforcement with adopting a social district. And he hasn't gotten any other feedback, at least that he's provided to me in regards to concerns that he's found from law enforcement. officials in other areas. And he does know that this was being presented to the council.
Well, and I guess too, there's gotta be a business there that has their liquor license to serve it, correct?
So absolutely. So if this gets adopted and pushed through the state, that does not automatically allow for other businesses to start serving liquor to be consumed outdoors. They have to apply separately.
Can this map be amended over time if we choose to do so?
So it could be amended, but if we chose to, but I believe that would still have to be submitted to the state for adoption. So you're correct, if in 5 to 10 years we see some different developments, that we could revise this. One of what this allows is in regards to the local management and maintenance plan, is that if we have concerns, for example, related to hours, operation, that's something that the DDA board could receive feedback on and make changes to.
And I think,
So if we had nuisances, that's one thing to consider.
and that is something, especially enforcement hours, where it's daylight, where it's easy to see the containers, things like that. I think it was thoughtful in that regard, just to make sure that it's not pitch black out when when we're trying to enforce something like this. So, which would make law enforcement's job infinitely difficult. But
I have a question, and maybe I missed it, but how are we going to prevent underage drinking? Is there a ban that people will be wearing while drinking these cups with insignia on it? Like, how are we going to prevent passing off of drinks?
So the similar policies and procedures in regards to bartenders to being able to have a license to dispense alcohol, it's all the same, that they're ultimately responsible for who it is that they're providing beverages to. And similar to like if you were in a bar establishment, if you yourself were to give that to an underage individual, it would be as similar as if it was in public.
And I think this, having a social district, we've had obviously multitudes of conversations over the years about it. It changes the framework of how people come downtown. And again, it's meant to be a magnet for people for a variety of reasons, and gives the flexibility to hold other events that might be interested in operating in that space as well. So it gives us a lot more flexibility to bring people to the city center, which is really what our goal is.
Both of the businesses that are currently in our downtown are very excited about this opportunity. The one business owner was planning on being here tonight, but didn't know whether or not he was going to be able to make it because he was at one of his other locations. And I don't see him here.
I guess maybe if I understood Mackenzie's question correctly, is that, so let's say I go in and I buy a cup and get my alcohol, she cards me or whatever. I go out and hand the cup to my somebody under 18 is drinking it. The enforcement person, that's what she said, was going to be a ban, something, so they know I've been carded compared to somebody that just, I know it's my responsibility because I handed it to a minor. But the same token, how's the enforcement going to know? Well, some of the kids look,
Yeah.
older
So
than
from
they
a general
are.
standpoint,
Huh?
From a general standpoint, there isn't, the bartenders or anyone aren't out in the public area monitoring that consumption. That would be the issue of you providing, alcohol to an underage individual. So, whether or not there was a ban, these are questions that could be potentially addressed to law enforcement. But like I said, it's, it's a felony either way. I mean, it's illegal for you to, provide alcohol to a minor.
Yeah, I don't think the social distance is going to promote or deter that behavior anyway, either way, right?
Okay.
It is, they can do it tomorrow and walk down the road. They don't need a social district to do that. But I get I get the concern for sure.
And as we mentioned, the local maintenance and management plan, if we did see, some unique issues or concerns, those are items that we could try to figure out ways to prevent them from happening in the future too.
All right. Looking for a motion then for recommending the adoption of Resolution 2513 to establish a social district in downtown Middleville and approve the accompanying ordinances, which I'm assuming we're going to have to do one at a time anyway.
You're going to do the resolution now and the ordinance when it shows up on
So
the agenda.
it would be a motion to adopt resolution number 25-13.
Perfect. All right. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Anyone would like to support that? I'll support it. We have a motion with support for the adoption of Resolution 2513 to establish a social district in downtown Middleville. I think we're going to do
We have to do a roll call.
roll call.
Do you have any more discussion first?
Any more discussion?
Yeah.
Oh.
I gave my reasons for voting no on this last time, so I'm not gonna repeat them. They still stand in my mind. All I got to say about it.
Ready?
Any other further discussion? Could I please have a roll call?
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Richard Hamilton,
Nay.
John Osterban,
Aye.
Mackenzie Peters,
Nay.
Kevin Smith.
Aye.
Does that? So it's okay? Okay.
Okay, Mr. Powers.
Thank you. So this is related to planning and zoning fees. As you recall, last year, went through and did a study in regards to the man hours that were allocated, what the costs were for reviewing the permits. So the items that you see before you, I didn't do a similar study as this was, just a year ago. That the proposed budget is, or the fees are as they have been this previous year. That wasn't recommending any changes, but certainly, any discussion, comments, questions, or concerns. RRC best practice is for reviewing our uniform fee schedule, annually.
Mr. President, I just have one question for Doug. For Planning Commission special meeting, I noticed there was a fee for that. What's the rationale behind Planning Commission meeting and charging people a fee to make the presentation?
So there's a couple items. So one, that we have to pay, all the board members currently are compensated. So that adds a cost along with the cost for noticing of the meeting and in regards to staff time. This is what the number has been. I didn't, for the past several years, I haven't revised this. One of the reasons behind not revising it is a lot of our meetings, when people are asking to go before the planning commission, end up requiring public notice as to where the difference in time between them being able to be on the next meeting, since we meet monthly, versus scheduling a special meeting, it is not much different. So I have seen no record of the planning commission having a special meeting that I am aware of ever. So, it's something that we need to have available in case if there is a need or demand of the public to have a special meeting for a reason that the planning commission would need to convene.
Well, okay, but we don't get paid anyway, so. I mean, I just,
The rest of the planning commissioners
Yes.
do.
The planning commissioners are compensated per ordinance.
You mean you're discriminating against me?
Yes.
Okay, approved. Go ahead.
Mr. President,
Thank you.
Life of a liaison.
Actually, you did when you approved the new,
I don't have any objection
Salary
to it. I
schedule.
just was curious and I got my answer, so.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2514.
Support. We have a motion with support. Any further discussion? Rhonda, may I have roll call, please?
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Richard Hamilton,
Aye.
John Osterban,
Aye.
Mackenzie Peters,
Aye.
Kevin Smith,
Aye. Mr. Stolzenberg.
yes. Next on the agenda, you've got budget and millage rate. Resolution to amend Resolution 2430, approving the 2025 budget and millage rates. We got the revised rates from the equalization director, Berry County Equalization Director, and we have to amend our previous resolution. Since we adopt our resolution, we adopt our budget mid-year compared to what the county adopts their budget. So the county is July to June, and we are January to December.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2515 to amend 2430.
Support. Can I add one other item on this?
Please.
So included in this also, previously, we've had two funds that this would fund into. So the general fund and then the highway fund. I've taken the step of splitting it even further into the highway fund and then the local streets fund. So local streets, 1 mil, major streets, the balance of the 0.7, whatever that is, 7283, and then the rest of that would go to the general fund as we have in there already. So
That's to bolster the capital fund?
that's to bolster the local streets
Local
fund.
street funds.
And then subsequently, I'll work with staff and with the president to establish some more capital fund
Okay.
as well
Very
moving
good.
forward. Yep.
And lower taxes.
Love it.
Yeah.
Motion with support. Could we please have a roll call?
Richard Hamilton,
Aye.
John Osterban,
Aye.
Mackenzie Peters,
Aye.
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Kevin Smith,
Aye. Motion passes.
Next is the previously discussed resolution to add plan amendment number 5 to the local development finance authority plan.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2516, resolution to approve the recommended amendment number 5 for the
Forward.
LDFA. Yep.
We have a motion with support. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Rhonda, may I please have a roll call?
Richard Hamilton,
Aye.
John Osterban,
Aye.
Mackenzie Peters,
Aye.
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Kevin Smith,
Aye. Motion passes.
And finally, for me, for resolutions anyway, we have another resolution to correct the previous resolution to certify the 227.12, thank you, feet of Arlington Court. There was a discrepancy in the legal description from the previous resolution, so this corrects that.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2517 to amend 2507.
Support.
We have a motion with support. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Rhonda, could I please have a roll call?
John Osterban,
Aye.
Mackenzie Peters,
Aye.
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Richard Hamilton,
Aye.
Kevin Smith,
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Powers.
Back again. So ordinance number 2141, that if you're looking at the current ordinance or section 38-36, this is very similar to what was previously there, that, typically unless authorized by permit approved by the council and issued by the village, no person shall have possession or custody of or consume in any public, village park or village-owned property, any alcoholic liquor defined in Public Act 58 of 1998. However, this amendment also includes within it the social district that we discussed per the previous resolution. Anyone have any questions, comments, concerns pertaining to this language?
I only have a discussion piece. When I was in Berry County Leadership, we did a tour of the jail and talked with the judge. And one of the things that he said was that in the county, one of the largest plagues of issues that they run into is drinking and driving. So with that, we can go through the motions here, but I just wanted to make that comment.
So I'm not sure how this would relate to drinking and driving. The only thing I could say is that the contrary could actually be said for this, because this would allow people to be able to go outside of the beverages and, have time to stretch their legs. So I'm not really certain how that relates to this, but.
So if this is approved, what changes?
So what changes is that this allows that exception that's listed there in the fourth line, where it includes with the created social district by resolution of the council.
If it's rejected, then it stays as is.
So if this was denied, then that exception would not be there. It would be as 3836 currently shows.
Right.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I didn't know when to bring this up, is the classes I went to in Bay City, one thing that stuck out with me, and I guess I should have said something earlier, is that when they were talking about doing exactly what we're doing, instead of just asking for discussion, especially being new for me, maybe other people, is that instead of just asking for support from a person for support, like even this one and some other ones here, giving whoever supports it a reason why they're supporting it. I think some of the decisions I made, even on a couple of issues, may have changed if I heard different supports of why, just to say support. I know you asked for discussions, and I don't know how to implement this. It's probably way out of line but even stuff like this is that as a person making a decision, I know I read this stuff before, I don't know, I'd suggest maybe instead of just saying support the thing is why do you support it? Why,
Can I answer that?
Okay.
That's the reason for discussion. You can either support it or not. You can give your reasons for not supporting it, give your reasons for supporting it.
Council, would it help
Otherwise-
if I brought up that the communities I've talked with, none of them have suggested that there's been more DUIs or any negative issues related to having a social district? That was the reason for the conversation with the other communities. No one has had anything negative associated with social districts related to alcohol intoxication, DUIs, underage drinking, usage of marijuana in public places. None of that has been an issue in Wayland, Hastings, or Lowell. I have not received any negative feedback.
I can try to answer John's question later in the meeting, if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's a touch in the order of, a point of order.
Sure.
In terms of discussing the social district and the ramifications, and certainly the issue with a rolling board, and there's a lot that goes into these sorts of things. This has been something that's been on the books for ages. Part of preparing for the evening is to review it, understand it, and come with objections. Mr. Hamilton is certainly good at doing that. So he reads through it when we have a point that needs to be made. If Mr. Hamilton agrees or disagrees, it oftentimes, it's thoughtful discussion, which is why we have it. I don't think when the question is posed for discussion in general, it's meant to give you the opportunity to share your opinion, either whether you agree with something or disagree with something. And in this particular case, it's a complex issue, something that you're coming in late on, certainly because of the length of time that we've been spending on it. I can, in my opinion, it is adding to an environment that we are trying to create in the downtown area where we are bringing people downtown. It is good for the businesses that are participating in it. It's good for the residents who participate in activities. It broadens the field where people who otherwise would be sitting in their backyard would be coming downtown now and enjoying an event or whatever in the same manner that they may if they're at home. So the reality is that what we're trying to do is create magnetism. And if you look at any community that has a social district, especially it's nascent to us. So we have a lot of development and we have a lot of learnings to go through. But the idea here is if we can create that magnetism and give the right conditions and control it appropriately through law enforcement and ordinances and ensure that we're doing it right through through legal advice and so on. It's only, again, another tool in our tool belt to be able to bring people here and to help the businesses when they start a business down here, if it's a restaurant or if it's whatever, they have the ability to take advantage of the traffic that's created from it. So again, the DDA has been working on it. This board has certainly had multiple discussions about it. And yes, there's always risk when you move forward and you change and you create opportunity. It's risk versus reward. And I think Mr. Powers has done his homework. He's communicated with other municipalities that have social districts. And I might add, there's plenty of them along the lake that have social districts. And I can tell you right now, they are not having this conversation. They're building businesses in their communities, and they're moving forward with bringing people back to these city centers. So it's difficult to conceptualize what the ramifications of this are until we get experience and really get our feet wet. But I think we're being very cautious, and we're gonna put in in the agendas moving forward to ensure that we're taking the right steps to protect our community, to make sure that it's safe, to make sure that it's enjoyable by others. And I think moving forward with anything related to the social district is only going to benefit us in the long run. So if there's objections to that and you want to discuss those, we certainly have the opportunity to do that during discussion time, for sure. Mr. Hamilton.
I just want to encourage you, when we have a president that is very fluid and he listens. We had a president that didn't. And so if you want to have a problem, work under that. Our new president is open to any kind of discussion, whether you're against or for something. Don't feel intimidated about what somebody else wants to do. Do your own homework, do your own feelings, talk to people about things ahead of time. Read the agenda. If you don't understand something, get with Craig. You got the time. You're retired, right? Craig's not retired.
No, I'm
Anyway.
definitely not retired.
Anyway, don't feel bad about, objecting to something or being for something.
Well, no,
It's just, you gotta speak up, and it's okay.
Yeah, you,
For-
we're in a safe place here, but
Yes, yeah.
a point of order,
Safe
to the
Point
point,
of order.
and without moving forward any further at this, a point of order is that we do have, we definitely have an ordinance that we need to pass here, so, or whatever, but thank you, Mr. Hamilton, for that. I'm sure Mr. Osterbon appreciates that. But back to what we need to get done tonight, and that is to approve ordinance 2142,
41.
or 41, I'm sorry. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
All right. Do I have support?
Just for point of order, speaking of,
Then I
So-
will make a motion to support.
well, okay, so true Robert's Rules of Order, support is not necessarily a motion, is not saying you support something. So that, it's kind of been taken out. It should be motion and a second. So then it doesn't matter if the person that's seconding the motion supports the
Right.
Just moving it along.
item or not, it's just moving it along for discussion at that point. So
Correct.
you can say second, and then you don't have to, the fear that you have to vote yes or no at that point, and that sort of thing. So it'd be
A motion and a second.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I've been to a jillion of these things,
Yep.
internally and externally.
I understand.
get
I
it.
wasn't- I
It's
was-
semantics.
I was trying
For sure.
to
I get
answer
it.
Mr. Osterbon's question on that.
Yep.
So before we vote, Mr. President, I'd like to make one more point of discussion, if I may.
Of course.
I think the best way to encourage downtown activity and economic growth is continuing with our public community engagement events, as well as diversifying and retaining businesses, which we seem to have an issue doing. But, and no fault of anyone here, it's just, I think right now we have a lot of turnover in businesses, as well as have a hard time getting diverse businesses in town. So on that note, I'll let it rest.
Rhonda, may I please have roll call?
Mackenzie Peters,
Nay.
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Richard Hamilton,
Nay.
John Osterbon,
Aye.
Kevin Smith,
Aye. Motion passes. And moving on to ordinance 2142.
So this is for consideration of ordinance number 2142, the rezoning of 313 Arlington Street from R1 to C2, which R1 is single-family residential and C2 being our highway commercial. So this recommendation is for staff recommends that the village council approve ordinance number 2142, rezoning 313 Arlington Street, parcel number 41-022-442-00 from R1 Single Family Residential to C2 Highway Commercial, consistent with the recommendation of the Planning Commission. So the background, petitioner Steve Pennington submitted a request to rezone the property at 313 Arlington Street to support a proposed commercial development. The parcel is currently zoned R1, although it has historically operated as a multifamily residential property, which is not permitted in the R1 district. The proposed C2 zoning would allow both the prior residential use and future commercial uses. On October 10th of 2024, the Site Plan Committee advised the petitioner that rezoning would be required before further review of the proposed site plan. The Village of Middleville future land use map indicates this parcel as special designation commercial. While this is not a currently established zoning district, it intended character aligns closely with the C2 zoning district. Additionally, adjacent parcels are already zoned C2, making this a logical extension of the existing zoning and not spot zoning. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on April 15th of 2025 and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the rezoning request. So you see here's the ordinance number is attached, as well as the staff memo, all the public hearing related items that were reviewed by the Planning Commission. If there's any Questions, comments, concerns?
Is that the fitness center that was rumored to be a 24-hour fitness center, or is that different? 'Cause it
No,
said
so this,
something.
this has been a residential. The property that you're referring to is on the other side of the road, further
Okay.
north.
That's what I thought, but I thought reading through this, there was something about a
This-
fitness center.
This property was non-conforming, and we're trying to bring it into compliance.
I see.
You know, because the majority of M37 is multifamily or
Commercial.
commercial, that single-family usage is not typical on M37 these days. So this will bring it in line with the future land use plan, and the planning commission felt that way, and that's why they unanimously recommended this. But in order for any zoning map change, it has to be done by the council per way of ordinance, and that's what you have before you. This would
Yeah.
allow for this to be
Right.
adopted into a C2.
Right.
Mr. President? I'll
Yes,
make a
sir.
motion to approve ordinance 2142, rezoning of 313 Arlington Street.
Second.
We have a motion that's been seconded. I don't know if I'm going to continue that verbiage, but we'll do it to entertain people tonight. Rhonda, may I please have roll call? Oh, any further discussion before we move on? Okay. Rhonda, may I have a roll call, please?
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Richard Hamilton,
Aye.
John Osterban,
Aye.
Kenzie Peters,
Aye.
Kevin Smith.
Getting some housekeeping done. That's great.
That'll what? I know. I'm gonna be
Trying to see if I'm up
around
next.
No, I think that's it.
You are?
No.
Well,
Yeah.
we didn't do the
New business.
Yeah.
New
we
business.
didn't do new
Oh, yeah.
business.
So moving on to new business, public participation plan.
So as you recall, last year, we had the joint meeting and discussed revisions to the proposed public participation plan. So the document you see before you is an annual update that's showing its efficacy along with the evaluation of effectiveness and some potential recommendations and anticipated engagement priorities. Certainly, you know, there's no action that's needed on this. You can, you know, give feedback, forward it to the manager. We can, you know, discuss it later if there's certain comments, questions, or concerns you have, unless there is something that you've seen as a red flag tonight.
I'm always concerned about public participation. And just what our outreach looks like. So that people can participate in things like public hearings.
So, yeah.
It's good
our-
information. I just think,
Yeah.
I just think that is something, I mean, we always throw out surveys and things like that, but it's,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what it looks like today versus 10 years ago or 20 years ago when surveys got feedback. I have a hard time.
So this is the first time that this board in the history of the village is receiving an update from public participation. So if there are comments, one thing that could be done is we could review what our public participation strategies looks like in reference to this
Yeah.
and dialogue about any, you know, individual feedback. If there are changes that need to be made, you know, we could prepare those for a later meeting. But yes, this is a shorter document, but there's a lot in regards to how and when whether or not we need to, or if it's recommended, you know, or if it's seen as optional. So, you know, we can certainly, if there's a time, just let me know if you'd like to discuss it. I'd be more than happy to do so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Master plan update, sir.
Absolutely. So, you know, this is one of the RRC best practices. To just want, you know, a couple items to show you efficacy, because I know earlier we talked about surveys and we talked about the potential need for a master plan update. So in reference to the master plan, there's a couple things that we actually did. One was finalizing the Mid-Village Development Agreement, was utilization along with public engagement for plan review. That's always referencing the master plan, the zoning alignment with the future land use map, blight removal for the Baby Bliss site, developer selection for 36 State Street. If you remember, that was one of the reasons as to why we made similar recommendations. And then, of course, the capital improvement plan implementation, because that's where we're really getting the public feedback in regards to how we're allocating those funds. Those are what I reviewed as primary references from the master plan standpoint. If anyone has any questions, want me to discuss any of that in more detail, comments, concerns?
It's very informative, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
very
you.
thorough.
Just as a trailing comment on Mr. Powers' presentation, there's a lot going on at any given one moment. He's a wealth of knowledge, and I think as it relates to the master plan update, it's something that we've checked a lot of the check boxes on it, and it's this overhaul, and to Mr. Hamilton's point, is going to be it's a big lift, I think, moving forward. So I'm with you. We need to not only share public commentary with regard to where we're hearing out in the general public, but also, find ways to support Mr. Powers and his decision tree, because in getting this information put together, it's a huge project. So thanks for the update, and certainly I just would encourage the board at any given moment when you have a spare moment to share with Mr. Powers, to share your thoughts. It's a big deal. All right, in your packet that all of you've reviewed, we have boards and commissions, informational items.
May I speak to that?
Yeah.
Lincoln Meadows, I just wonder if that's typical, that they used up 52% of their budget when they were only like a third of the year. Is that normal? That's the first time I've ever seen it.
Yeah.
I don't know their fiscal year.
Yeah, I don't either.
Which one did you read that in?
There was a note.
I just looked at their budget, their
on their
bottom
budget.
line, and their
Oh.
percentage of used budget.
But they could have done some refurbishments. I didn't read thoroughly through that, but they could have had a repairs, or, the cost of things are so outrageous now.
Yeah, the only reason I bring it up, does that mean that if something happens up there, we're on the hook for that? I guess yes.
I think
Ultimately.
Yeah, okay. So maybe we need to ask them that, like Mackenzie says, did they go through some maintenance improvements, some capital improvements or something like that, where the budget's not that big, but
but they also had some big lifts, the roof, and so on
Yeah.
and so forth. I mean, those are big lifts on their budget. So yeah, I mean, I get it, but I think half of it was a roof. So it doesn't shock me that they're moving through that money.
yeah,
Fairly
that's my only comment.
Yeah. But you're all right. Okay. Other informational items, DDA revenues expenditure report as of 4:30. I'd like to open up the floor for public comment.
Good evening, board. Kurt DeCam from Middleville here. I was referred to the last meeting you guys held when there was discussion about an event that's going to take place on July 19th. There were a few comments about, we're not endorsing this, we're not promoting this. But I would push back and say the only reason a group wants to use public facilities that require a permit is for promotion and endorsement. And as I listen to the mental gymnastics of people trying to say men with beards with fake bosoms, extravagant makeup, hair done up, fishnet stockings, justifying this
to happen in front of children and calling it a family event. What kind of word pretzel is that anybody would buy into that? This nothing but deviance, immorality, and exploitation. That's all it is. In this, when we talk about why are businesses leaving, why can't we retain them? It's because we're not promoting family values and tradition that a village like Meadowville has brought and has stood on for so many years. So with that, as many times as people can be critical from here, Mr. Osterbahn, Mr. Hamilton, thank you for your vote for decency in opposing this. You ought to be recognized, and I'm sure you will be. Thank you.
Any other public comment? All right, we're going to move on to final council comment. Mr. Bishop,
I'm good.
Mr. Hamilton.
Appreciate the civility that you have brought to this council.
Thank you. Mr. Osterbahn.
I learned a lot out there in Bay City. I don't know, have you also been to Bay City? That's an amazing riverfront they have there. But lot to learn yet. Just enjoying it, but just little sticky things every once in a while.
I have nothing.
All right. That leaves me standing between everybody leaving. It's good discussion. I appreciate, Mr. Osterbahn, I appreciate when you have a question, you ask. It's great. I think it's, we all had to be here in your space when you're first learning how to do this. And I appreciate the questions, and certainly you going to these educational events. It's phenomenal. We all need to do more of that, for sure. I appreciate public comment. I support it. I do support it. I know that there's a lot of gymnastics that get played when we're talking about ordinances and passing the ability to allow the use of public property. It's a complex topic, but thank you for your comments, for sure. And I just want to show my gratitude to the DDA. I think that we've really started to laser light focus and have a common goal collectively. I know that there's a lot of ways that we can go about trying to get people to come to the downtown area, and just in general, the DDA district. I'm very appreciative. I mean, I don't know if there's an open building, open spot in our commercial properties on 37. I'm very thankful for the activities that are happening downtown. Progress is being made, and I think it's just simply because we have a common target to throw darts at. So I appreciate that, and the forward momentum that we're still continuing to build on. So thank you for all of your efforts. It's greatly appreciated. I'd also like to thank the staff, and I know that today we learned of Mr. Belson's departure. I don't want to continue to hit the public button on that, but I think it cannot be overstated that he was a strategic resource that this village desperately needed, and we are going to have a gigantic gap to fill upon his departure. My only commentary is that as a board, we are responsible ultimately for helping him accomplish his tasks. I think we've always been very supportive of what he needs. And then I think as staff in general, people are complex, and, Craig is still relatively new at the job, and he's doing a bang up job to get us where we are today. There's still a lot of work to do. And I think, to his point, you can only do things in a linear fashion. You can only incite change in a very sequential way, and that's certainly the right way to do it. And unfortunately, it's about priorities, and I think it was just poor timing on getting a job offer elsewhere. So shame on us for not doing that sooner, but I'm sure the next person will be just as capable, and I'm sure we'll be just fine, as you state. Not without its pain points, though. And with that, I think a motion is in order.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
We have a motion with support. Any further discussion? Meeting adjourned.
Oh, that's
Didn't you